Time for another Hot Air Sports podcast with me, Macca, and my good mate Mahona. How are you this week, bud?
Oh, mate, still in the same spot. Been here for a few weeks now, and I'm not planning on going anywhere soon. Still, a little bit of cabin fever, but I'm okay, mate. Surviving. There's sport on behind me, so I'm okay.
Quite right. You'll be able to, you can go and have a picnic, though, now with the rest of the whānau.
Oh, neato. There's a rush on picnic baskets, mate, online. Yep. Yeah, I can't get one anywhere, so I might just have to take my stuff in plastic bags. Oh, no, you can't take it in a plastic bag these days.
Can't take it in a plastic bag. No, Yogi Bear's pretty happy because there's lots of picnic baskets around.
Okay, boo-boo, let's get going to this.
Straight on with missing the big issues this week because we've recorded a baseball special with New Zealand Diamond Black Ricky Paiwai. So check out that one on YouTube and Spotify. So it's straight into football. That's PlayStation football. You can only do that with a joystick, was how commentator Peter Drury described Mohamed Salah's goal at the weekend's premium fixture. With Liverpool and Man City to stalemate at Anfield, Chelsea sneak into top spot. But let's go back to that Mohamed Salah goal. How good!
Phenomenal goal. The little sparkling toes of the magical Egyptian as he ran down the wing and then just beat everyone in the box and slammed it in with his right foot. What a finish. What a goal. Only way it could have been any better is if it had won the game for Liverpool. Unfortunately, Kevin De Bruyne scored a beauty at the other end. 2-2, probably the right result at the end of the day. We were awful in the first half. That second half, though, mate, 45 minutes of football from the gods, wasn't it? Absolutely fantastic.
If you were a not a Manchester City or Liverpool supporter, neutral, just watching that game,
you had a lot more fun than you and me.
Yeah, quite right. Yeah, no, I've spoken to a couple of people this week who watched it as neutrals and just said you can't see much better standard of football anywhere in the world.
No, it was phenomenal. But the commentary, Peter Drury, I don't think anyone's ever used a joystick for the last 20 years, Peter. They're called analog sticks now, mate. Just to recap, don't think he's been playing PlayStation. Probably last thing he played was an old Atari, I reckon. But never mind. Right. It was a good piece of commentary, though, wasn't it?
It was a superb piece of commentary. As I say, Chelsea have snuck into the top spot, but Brentford, they continue to amaze, beating West Ham at the London Stadium.
Yeah, man, that was a great game too. Thomas Frank has got them playing beautifully. Like I said, he doesn't really change the style of football they play. He just sticks to his style regardless. I mean, it makes the odd adjustment depending on who he's playing, but they stick to their style, and he just believes in them and they believe in him and they play for each other. And those two up front, they're beasts. They're going to cause so many teams problems this year, man. It's just a question of whether they can sustain it. Obviously, we've seen this quite often from teams coming up. They start with this and a roar. Can you sustain it? Injuries, international breaks, things happen. Just hope they can because they're playing some good football at the moment.
Yeah, the squad depth will be tested, especially once you get into the dog days of winter and the injuries start to mount up and you get to face Manchester City, Manchester United, Liverpool and Chelsea in 4 consecutive weeks, which I don't know if that's happening, but if it did, that makes it a bit tougher.
We might have to change the statement to, can they do it on a cold winter's night in Brentford?
Yeah. Quite right. Well, Stoke's doing all right in the championship this season. They've had a good start, so maybe Premier League teams will have to face a cold, wet night in Stoke again.
They might be coming back.
Quite right. With 6 goals to his name already, Salah sits top of the goal-scoring charts in the Premier League, with Leicester's Jamie Vardy, who lives by the adage of life or goal-scoring, begins at 30 after scoring his 90th league goal since his 30th birthday.
Wow.
Vardy and Salah are followed by West Ham's Mclaughlin Antonio on 5 and 4 players on 4, including Liverpool's Sadio Mane, who, by the way, his goal on Saturday or Sunday wasn't bad either. Great little pass from Mohamed Salah.
It was a beauty.
Brighton talisman Neil Maupay and Watford's Ismail Assar, as well as United's Bruno Fernandes. And by the way, that penalty he took last week finally did land somewhere near Iceland, I think.
Yeah, the thing about this, I mean, first of all, where's Ronaldo? He scored a couple of penalties, hasn't he? Oh, he's not on the list. Well, that's the first thing. And Jamie Vardy, 90 goals since he's 30.
Yeah.
How many did he score? So he only scored 10 or so before he was 30.
I'm not sure.
That's phenomenal. I mean, imagine if he'd scored, he could have been Alan Shearer if he had done it earlier.
Yeah, and speaking of goal scorers, I don't see Harry Kane's name.
No, where's Harry?
Featuring, he's actually not scored a league goal yet. He scored a couple in the Europa Conference League.
Tough for Harry. I think he was Piney's pick to be the number one goal scorer for the season. I think Piney might have thought he was going to be playing for Manchester City though.
Yeah, quite right. Now, you've got some big news coming out of Newcastle.
Oh, massive news coming out of Newcastle, mate. It looks like the owner might finally be on his way. Mr. Ashley, they've confirmed that the club has approved a takeover from a Saudi Arabian-led consortium for £300 million. It's almost 18 months since it's first proposed, and it looks like they're going to become one of the world's wealthiest clubs. They're going to be transformed overnight into one of the world's wealthiest clubs, and they're going to go out and buy everyone under the sun. They're going to have Mbappe and Haaland up the front. They're going to have the best defenders at the back, and they're going to win everything, apparently. It's good for the people in Newcastle that they're finally getting rid of Mike Ashley, who's been an awful owner. But just careful what you wish for. I mean, they are Saudi Arabia, and anyone who's a member of Amnesty International knows damn well that they don't have the greatest human rights record. And if I was Steve Bruce, old Brucey, who's the current manager there, I'd be a little bit worried, maybe a lot worried that he won't be there for much longer.
Well, yes, there's already talk about an £8 million buyout, and well, you can get a lot of kebabs with £8 million.
Well done, mate. That's a beauty. That's a great accent. That's beautiful.
Talking of managers, Xisco Munoz is the first Premier League casualty.
The Xisco kid.
After the Watford boss was sacked and replaced by the mercurial Claudio Ranieri, who won the Premier League with Leicester.
Dilly ding, dilly dong.
Dilly ding, dilly dong.
Dilly ding, dilly dong.
Ranieri has since managed Fulham and Sampdoria in Italy since his Premiership success, and this will be his 18th club. Now, talking of a lot of clubs, Ranieri is Watford's 15th permanent manager in 10 years. But since the Italian Pozzo family took over the club in 2012, there have been 14 full-time managers, or should that be 11? Because have been rehired.
If you don't get too comfortable, I think there's this story there. If you're a manager of Watford, unless you take them to the Premier League, even if you do, I mean, look at Ranieri. He took the Leicester to the Premier League. He was gone the next season, so he's well used to it. I suppose he's the perfect manager for Watford. Really, he's used to bouncing around. So, and he'll be a safe pair of hands for them, won't he? I mean, he'll make sure they're not get relegated.
Yeah, well, they're currently in 15th and just one win since the opening day. But the big task for Ranieri, his first job, is to get his squad ready for the visit of a certain team from Liverpool who wear red.
Yeah, I don't like playing a team when they've got that new manager bounce, and I don't have fond memories of going to Watford last year either. So let's just hope that they don't get that bounce for us, and they can get it the week after.
Yeah. Speaking of Italy,
perhaps we should. Go on.
They lost their first match in 38 games after going down 2-1 to Spain in the semi-final of the Nations League. The European champions also had centre-back Christian Bonucci sent off for a stray elbow, and Spain had Man City forward Ferran Torres to thank for his 2 first-half goals. And now they will now meet France in Tuesday morning's final after France came from behind against Belgium 2-0 at half-time to win that game in the 89th minute.
Mate, the French have always been great at coming from behind. Sorry, I just had to say that.
Quite right.
The French. That was probably expected. I wasn't expecting them to be behind 2-0, but they came out in the second half, gave it a great go. That second half was actually a good game. But it's actually interesting to see that Spain actually found someone that can bang the goals in. Ferran Torres' second goal was an absolute cracker, and good to see they got a little bit of revenge for their loss in the Euros. I would have Spain. I mean, it's going to be a close game, isn't it? Does anyone really care? It's next Tuesday morning is the final for that. Should be a good game. I'll be watching it. Nothing else to do.
Yeah, quite right. And Belgium will be kicking themselves too, because 2 minutes before Hernandez scored that winning goal,
Lukaku.
they thought they'd taken a late lead with Lukaku, but he was ruled offside.
Mate, they are so good at being the bridesmaid, aren't they? They're just the best at being the bridesmaid. Actually, they don't often get to the big dance, so they're not even the bridesmaid. They're maybe the third bridesmaid.
Yeah.
They're going to win something shortly, man, because their players are getting older. They've had a lot of good players for a long time, and they've been ranked number one for a while. Don't see it, to be fair.
Well, it just goes to show, doesn't it? The rankings don't really mean anything.
Not really, eh? Perhaps we should change their name to Manchester United, though. It's revealed that 8 of the United players feature in the top 20 paid players in the Premier League, followed by Manchester City with 4, while fellow heavyweights Liverpool and Chelsea have only 3. United have 4 of the top 5, with Cristiano Ronaldo leading the way. I think he's on like £450,000 a week or something like that. Something absolutely ridiculous.
Just over 500.
Is it 500?
Yeah.
Teammates David De Gea, Rafael Varane, and Jadon Sancho are the other ones, separated by City's Kevin De Bruyne. Now, of those, I think Kevin De Bruyne is probably the only one deserving of the money of those top 5, if you ask me. The only club outside the top 4 in those top 20 are Arsenal, who have 2 players in Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang and Thomas Partey on the list. The thing that made me stand up and take notice of this was that Liverpool's top player was Mo Salah, and he was way down the list. I think he's 18th or 19th. And you look at the players above him, you think, no wonder he's a little bit pissed off.
Well, Virgil van Dijk is actually a wee bit higher than him.
Is he?
He's on 220,000. I think he was 10th or 11th.
Yeah.
But yeah, and Fabinho, the only other Liverpool player in that top 20. But Mo Salah, he's reportedly asking for 300 to 380,000 pounds a week. John Henry, Mr. Owner, pay the man.
Pay the man.
Give him the money.
You're going to have to pay a hell of a lot more than that to get someone to do his job. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Now the All Whites are going to play their first games in nearly 2 years when they meet the mighty Curacao and Bahrain in the Middle East country this week.
Is that one country or 2? Curacao and Bahrain?
Slightly different countries. One's from the Caribbean, one's from the Middle East. Of course, they played in Bahrain in 2009 in that series where we qualified for the 2010 World Cup.
They did. We got the 0-0 draw over there, didn't we?
0-0 draw over there. Coach Danny Hay has had to select a squad from outside of New Zealand and Australia due to travel restrictions. But with the large numbers of Kiwis playing in Europe or the US now, it wasn't really a difficult job. Burnley striker Chris Wood will captain the side, while regular skipper Winston Reid is with the team but won't play while he focuses on securing a new club after being released by West Ham at the beginning of the English season. Now, those 2 games are going to be live on Sky Sport, so an early start to your Sunday and Wednesday morning, I think they are.
Nice. It'll be good to see our national team play again. I've forgotten what they look like. Will they be playing in an all-white strip? Who knows? Maybe they'll play in purple to satisfy everyone else. I mean, it's interesting to see that Winston Reid is focusing on securing a new team. He's with the team, but he won't play. I would have thought you'd put yourself a little bit in the shop window. Maybe he's thinking no one's going to be watching these games at all. But yeah, that's interesting. But good. And Danny Hay, does he have the most difficult job of any coach in any sport and anywhere in the world? I mean...
We'd like you to be our national coach, but you only get to coach,
maybe once a year,
every couple of years.
Yeah, and your players are going to come from every part of the globe. Probably really tired when they get here, and then they're going to jet off as soon as they finish too. So, good luck.
Be good to see the All Whites on TV again.
It will,
and hope they do well.
Absolutely. Should we go to code, mate? Rugby Union.
Time to move on.
A loss. The All Blacks had a loss, mate. Cried into their cornflakes. Narrowest of margins to a fired-up Springbok side who passed the ball more in the first 5 minutes than they had for the entire game the week before. This was a great game of rugby. This is what rugby can be when both teams decide to play. Strong performances from many in the black jersey, including Geordie Barrett. He played very, very well. Brother Bowden played well too. Sever Reece, Anton Leonard-Brown, and David Havili also played very well in the backs. While in the pack, Adi Savia played absolutely magnificently.
He was
I thought
outstanding, wasn't he?
Absolutely. And Cody Taylor played well. But for a relatively quiet day for the rest of the front row and locks, actually, I thought we got quite dominated, especially in the second half. Our forwards really walked all over, I thought. Patrick Tuipulotu, Barrett and Retallick and Scott Barrett all coming home now and are going to miss the USA Europe section of the All Blacks tour for family reasons. I'm not going to cry too much over the loss here, man. What we've got to realise, the Springboks are the world champions. That was a good game of rugby. The All Blacks lose sometimes. Get over it.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, great game of rugby. As you say, it was a true traditional All Black Springbok test match. Whereas the week before was just a boring farce.
It was a blancmange.
It was good that the Springboks did actually come out, and as you said, I'm pretty sure they passed the ball more times in that first 5 minutes than they did in the entire previous week.
But when they did kick it, they were attacking kicks as well.
They
weren't just trying to defensive bomb it. They actually kicked really well tactically as well. So I mean, you can prove you can actually kick attacking kicks as well. I was really impressed with the Springboks, to be fair, especially their forwards.
I don't know if you noticed, but Geordie Barrett, every time he went up for a high catch, that left foot goes right out the front, doesn't it? And,
it does.
There was no Springboks making sure they were avoiding that boot. But, I mean, that just goes to show that's the way he catches the ball. So it just goes back to that Australian test when he got sent off. I mean,
ridiculous.
That's how he does it.
Geordie, you need to work on your jumping technique.
Yeah. Anyway, and he was the only All Black named in the All Blacks back to be named in the Rugby Championship tournament team after the conclusion of last weekend's games.
That's strange.
Like Will Jordan, Sevu Reece, Bowden Barrett and David Havili were all snubbed despite top performances, while the likes of Wallabies, Andrew Kellaway, Samu Karevi, Tate McDermott and even Quade Cooper were picked, even though the Wallabies were well beaten by the All Blacks. That just it bamboozles me. That must have been an Australian selector, I think.
Must have been. Quade Cooper, to be fair, he did play well over the probably played the best he's played for years, but that's not saying much.
He only played 2 games.
I know. He played okay. I can't understand how. I would have thought, if you're not picking David Havili, it's because he hasn't played enough. But then you go and pick Quade Cooper. So
yeah. Well, Havili only missed 1 test.
Do you really take any notice of these tournament teams anyway?
No.
Let's move.
The forwards had a definite Kiwi slant, though, with Adi Savia, Akira Ioane, Brodie Retallick and Cody Taylor all chosen. So half a pack. I guess it makes up for it a wee bit.
Fair enough. And that although you're looking at that pack, 3 of them played and were dominated by the Springboks last week. So even those, I can have issues with those. I mean, I thought the Springbok pack were just awesome last week. And they made some strange decisions, didn't they? Subbing their whole front row before half time. Yeah. What the hell was going on there? It was so strange. I thought it was almost like they were doing it to psych us out, and it almost looked like it worked. Yeah. But
you often see them do it a couple of minutes.
5 minutes into the second, exactly.
5 minutes.
But doing it 5 minutes before halftime. That was just so weird.
It was bizarre. Bizarre.
The team are going to be joined in Washington, D.C. by Captain Sam Cane, who's actually playing a little bit of provincial rugby, I noticed, for Wairarapa Bush. King Country, not Wairarapa Bush. That's your province, isn't it? Sam Whitelock, Shannon Frizzell, and Dane Coles are all returning from injury. And surprise call-up, lock Josh Lord, who was impressed for Taranaki in the NPC. Have you seen a lot of this guy? Have you seen him?
Not a heck of a lot, only the highlights they showed on the news the other night.
They were waxing lyrical about him. Why wouldn't they?
He apparently played a couple of games for the Chiefs this year, but I don't remember him.
I was saying the second coming almost. It was talking him up big time. The All Blacks' next game is against the USA in the nation's capital on the 24th of October before embarking on back-to-back European tests through November. Bring it on.
Yes, quite right. Looking forward to those, especially the European section of the tour, tests against Wales and Italy and Ireland, I think, is nice. The other ones, and France is the final one. The 3 Auckland teams have been ruled out of the NPC after their latest request for an exemption to travel was rejected earlier this week. Auckland Counties Manukau and North Harbour lodged their third request to base themselves outside of the Super City in secure bubbles in order to compete in the remainder of the NPC. But despite all players being fully vaccinated and agreeing to regular testing, the exemption was rejected on Wednesday night, leaving the three teams with no option but to pull the pin on their respective seasons. A bit sad.
What you going to do?
Yeah, what you going to do? I was surprised, really, that the exemption was turned down.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of talk lately, hasn't there, about exemptions, about MIQs, about all the. I guess maybe they've just had enough. They're just sort of thinking that at the moment it's just too risky, and also COVID cases sprouting out now, you know, in the Waikato and Northland, all that sort of thing, and everyone else is just worried about it. Just probably best just to say, look, park it. Let's come back next year, eh?
It is only the NPC.
I know. But if you were playing in it, if you were you know, imagine being a young guy, your first season, just been picked, you know?
Yeah.
It would be a big, big thing. I mean, yeah, feel sorry for them. Big news for women's rugby with the establishment of Super Rugby Aupiki, which is quite a cool name, actually. I quite like the sound of that. 4 teams, Blues, Chiefs, Hurricanes, and the South Island. They could come up with a better name than the South Island, couldn't they?
Yeah,
Blues, Chiefs, Hurricanes, and South Island.
It's a conglomerate of the Crusaders and Highlanders.
Yeah.
They will be based in Christchurch, though, however.
The Crewlanders. The
Highlanders, yeah.
Call them something. And they're going to compete over 4 weeks in March for the title. All players are going to be paid to play, which is great. The tournament's main aim is to bridge the gap and level between the Farah Palmer Cup and international games. Has to be good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I fully back moves like this, and it's great to see that all the players will be paid properly too.
Absolutely.
Not just expenses.
Just nominal. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's move on to Rugby League.
Rugby League. Okay, the season's over, mate. The Penrith Panthers put the disappointment of losing last year's GF behind them, beating the Bunnies 14-12. I thought it was compelling. It was grueling. It was a worthy showpiece to the 2021 NRL season in a year where the points have flown thick and fast with new rules like the 6 again rule, speeding up the game and highlighting the attacking prowess of both of the best teams. The Panthers showed that defence wins premierships, conceding just 6 tries from their final 4 matches. Despite all that, Adam Reynolds still had the chance to level it for the Bunnies twice, once with the sideline conversion and then with the final moments with an attempt at a 2-point field goal. It wasn't to be, however, and Nathan Cleary's kicking heroics for the Panthers and his overall general play earned him the Clive Churchill medal for the man of the match. And if you had got on that last week, you could have earned yourself some money. That was my little sports bet of the week there last week. So you should have been listening to me. Hopefully you were. Cody Walker for the Bunnies, I thought, scored the try of the match. Absolutely amazing try. Did you see this try?
I did, yeah. It was a very good try.
It reminded me of the Stacey Jones try in the 2002 final. He also provided the key moment of the game. Unfortunately for the Panthers, when he threw the intercept pass at 8-all, which if it had hit its mark, Alex Johnson was probably away at the other end. Unfortunately, it was intercepted by Stephen Crichton for the winning try to the Panthers, and they were never headed after that. It's a sad end to South's generation, who lose coach Wayne Bennett, Adam Reynolds, Dane Gagai, and Jaden Sewer for next year. It could be a long, long way back to another grand final for the poor old Bunnies. The Panthers losing a few players too. However, they've got so much young talent coming through, and Ivan Cleary locked in as coach and Nathan is the key. They look to building a bit of a dynasty to rival the Storm. Of course, they'll all have to be disappointed next year, though, because it's the Warriors' year next year, 2022. It's our year.
Quite right.
There you go. Also in Rugby League news, mate, Benji Marshall retired. Tributes to Benji Marshall are flowing from all corners after the wake of his retirement from Rugby League after the grand final. 19 seasons at the top of the sport. Not a lot of players can say they did 19 seasons of Rugby League. 36-year-old announced his decision to call time on his career at a press conference on Wednesday afternoon. He retires as one of New Zealand's greatest players, 31 caps for the Kiwis, 22 as captain. He won the Golden Boot in 2010 for the Rugby League's best international player. He won a World Cup as well. NRL career that saw him suit up for the West Tigers, St. George Illawarra Dragons, Brisbane Broncos, South Sydney Rabbitohs. He won the premiership in 2005 with those Tigers. 4-time NRL All-Star. Not bad for a boy from Whakatane. Well done, Benji. You're an absolute credit to your sport, mate. Your race, your whānau, your sport, your guy who is known for being an absolute champion on the field, but an even greater one off it. Go well, Benji. I'm sure retirement's going to be good for you, mate. He's a lovely man to boot.
Yep. I reckon he deserves a knighthood, that man.
So do I. So do I.
Well, you just look at if a rugby union player had had the same career. I mean, we all know that Richie McCaw turned down a knighthood when it was offered to him. Why are we not offering a knighthood to Benji Marshall?
He plays rugby league. That's probably the closest answer you're going to get. But no, absolutely. And the thing is, that guy does so much off the field that is not publicized as well for kids, for his family, for his race, for everything. And he's just someone you can hold up on a pedestal. And there's so many people in rugby league that you can't, He's never been in trouble, and he's just a credit to his sport, his race, his family.
One little issue, wasn't it? Some sort of something outside of McDonald's in Sydney one night.
Oh, maybe when he was like 20. I mean,
it was big news at the time, but it ended up being a storm in a teacup. And
absolutely,
I mean, and I think the guy's just had an amazing career. He's proved that he could come back and play after his dalliance with rugby.
And shoulders. I mean, when he first started, he had those shoulder reconstructions, both shoulders reconstructed. The third time he did it, he thought he was never going to play again. I remember seeing the footage of him crying in the changing rooms going, it's popping out. There's no way I can make a tackle. I'm gone, And then he thought his career was ended. And Wayne Bennett gives him a call and says, come up and play for the Broncos. I mean, he re-established himself as a different sort of player later on. When he first started, he was all pace and that beautiful sidestep, that jump up in the air and which way am I going to go? Almost changing direction in the air. But I think he'll be remembered for as much for his off-the-field stuff and for who he was as much as what he did on the field. Just an absolute credit to rugby league. So go well, Benji.
Yes, quite right.
Now, the decision to introduce the 17th team into the competition for 2023 has been rubber-stamped today by the Australian Rugby League Commission following a meeting with the 16 existing clubs. According to News Corp report, the Australian Rugby League chairman, Peter V'landys, has informed clubs of the decision following the announcement of a $50 million surplus for the NRL. They're not doing too bad, are they? The expansion team is going to join the competition in 2023, so not next year, the year after, with the Brisbane Firehawks. So here we go. Some more names for you. The Brisbane Firehawks, the Redcliffe Dolphins. I quite like that. The Redcliffe Dolphins and the Brisbane Jets. Yes, the Jets. In the race. The Warriors are going to be based out of Redcliffe for the 2022 season due to COVID protocols. There's going to be 12 additional games per season as a result, with every side to get 2 buys. So 12 additional games, obviously those for the other side. So we'll just get an extra game. I think it's cool. It sounds like the Dolphins will probably have the inside running because that's where the Warriors are going to be based next year. But there you go. They are definitely going to be expanding to 17 teams from 2023.
Yep. Sad news during the week.
I did. I had it as my bad week. I was going to have it as my...
We'll talk about that then.
Let's talk about it to the bad week one.
Right.
Let's go to other stuff.
The Ashes tour is finally going to go ahead after many of England's leading players accepted the schedule for the tour, which will begin with the first test in Brisbane on December 8th, as initially set. I'm wondering if it's because of Ian Botham's outburst a couple of weeks back, came out and said if the England team, the superstars in the England team didn't want to tour Australia, they could all just bugger off, basically.
Oh, good on you. Ben Stokes won't be there, is he? Is he injured or something?
Yeah, he's still injured. So
I don't think he's ever going to come right, to be fair, by the sound of it. They're going to play at great venues. They're not going to be playing at the MCG, the SCG, apparently Canberra, Darwin, Launceston. It's going to be the strangest Ashes tour ever.
Yeah. It'll be strange not having a Boxing Day test at the MCG.
Won't it? Kiwi racing driver Scott Mclaughlin has announced he won't be coming back to Australia in December for the Bathurst. Oh, no, that's a bit of a shame. He's been scheduled to drive his old DJR team, Penske Shell team, but with COVID restrictions in place in Australia, travel unpredictable. He said that he can't risk his future in the US by traveling back. Well, fair enough. That's basically what we said last week, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He also announced during the week that he'd like to drive in the New Zealand Grand Prix, as he didn't get a chance to feel well as Kiwi fans after last year's Auckland round of Supercars was cancelled. We'd love you to come back too, mate. Let's just get rid of this COVID first.
Yeah. Oh no, he's been going gangbusters in the States, and you don't really want to put that in jeopardy. So I think it's a good decision. It's a great shame. He would have loved to have got behind the car of the old Ford Mustang again. Yeah. But that means that Will Davison, who he was going to co-drive with, will now co-drive with his brother Alex.
Oh, okay, cool, nice.
In the great race. So
you love the great race too, don't you, mate?
Oh, I do, mate.
You anchor yourself to your couch, don't you?
Yep,
watch for 8 hours straight.
Absolutely.
Give me a receptacle.
I was never a great fan of motor racing, and then when I met
my beautiful wife,
Michelle, she was a big fan of the supercars, and so I started to get interested, and now I love it.
It's great stuff. That's
absolutely love it. Now the hot air best bet of the week.
Let's recap over last week. Two winners last week. Penrith 12 and under, and the Clive Churchill medalist either being Cody or
Nathan Cleary
or Nathan Cleary, and of course Nathan Cleary won that. So I gave you two winners last week. They were both paying $250. Can you do any better this week for me?
Well, this one, it's going to take a wee while to get a result, because I have gone with the Dodgers to win the World Series at $3.40. They're the favourites to win the World Series, so I thought $3.40 was pretty good value for that. So I've been on the TAB app and put my bet on for the Dodgers to win the World Series
at $3.40.
I'd love to see the Giants win it, but just as we talked about with Ricky on our baseball special podcast, I think it's going to be a Dodgers-Astros World Series, and I just think the Dodgers will be too strong. Their pitching lineup is just unbelievable with Max Scherzer, Walker Buehler, and Julio Urias. They're obviously missing Clayton Kershaw, who's injured, but he may come back towards the end of the playoffs, but we'll just have to wait and see. So the hot air best bet of the week, Dodgers to win the World Series, and it's paying $3.40.
Get out there and triple your money. That's awesome value. $3.40. I'm on it, mate. I'm on it. Yeah, Dodgers, $3.40. Okay. Now I've got good week, bad week. Okay, let's start with the good week. Of course, I can't go any further than the Clearys. You could write a sitcom about the Clearys, Nathan and Ivan, hugging each other at the end. I don't think I've ever seen anything as beautiful. The end of the grand final, father and son, coach and star player, winning a grand final. They both get a ring. How lovely is that? So I thought that was lovely finish. And also, I quite like Brian Toole. I always have a problem saying his Toole.
Brian Toole.
He proposed to his girlfriend afterwards with his grand final ring, which I thought was pretty nice.
And
gave her a kiss, and then actually gave her a bit of a lap dance in the changing room afterwards, and kicked her in the head accidentally, which was a bit of a laugh. So not a good week for his
great start to that relationship.
And bad week. Unfortunately, I'm going to stick with league. Manu Vatuvei. What a bad week it's been for him. It's been a bad couple of years for Manu. Pleaded guilty to importing methamphetamine. Now, he did come out and on his Instagram about a year or so ago when he was going to, the name suppression was going to be lifted, and said, look, I'm going to fight all these charges. They're completely not true, all that sort of stuff. Goes to court, pleads guilty. I had a couple of texts from people saying, oh my God, I thought he was going to plead. I said, yeah, well, it's different to pleading guilty on Instagram and pleading guilty in court. It's slightly different level of bar. So Manu, you just have to take the punishment now, don't you? How the great have fallen. I mean, he was the beast. He's now facing years in jail for importation of methamphetamine. Sad, sad story. It's really all about greed, isn't it, mate? Because he got paid a hell of a lot of money to play professional sport, and obviously finished his sport, struggled in a number of ways. Now when you read the story, it's just a sad story
It
of
is.
someone
Yep.
trying to make a hell of a lot of money. The people I'm saddest for are his family, his wife, his kids, and everyone else that's going to miss out on basically being around him for the next few years, and his community for the damage that drug does in the community. He should definitely have known better. So bad week for Manu Vatuvei. Really, really sad and really kind of mad about it.
It's a dicey situation, isn't it? I mean, these sports people, they get into a system and they're basically told what to do every hour of the day. You turn up to training at 10 o'clock, you train from 10:30 till 12:30, then you go and have some lunch, and then you do a bit of work in the weights room, and then you go back out onto the field and do another hour's work out on the field with the ball, and then you go and you do this, and then at 6 o'clock you have your dinner, and then you go to bed at 10 o'clock so you can be back at the park at 7:30 on the following morning to go through it all over again. And then suddenly you retire and there's what am I doing?
I'm twiddling my thumbs, and exactly. And if you haven't thought about that before you retire, you got to think about that when you're starting, not when you're finishing.
And that's why the likes of the Rugby Players Association and the Rugby League Players Association, you've got to work closely with those guys throughout your career to set yourself up for after your career. I mean, we've seen plenty of successes. We've also sadly seen plenty of failures of people going off the rails, once they finish their sport, not just in this country, but all around the world.
Cricket, Chris Lewis, same sort of guy. Remember the black fast bowler? He's in jail for the similar sort of. There's so many stories like this. People who have succeeded at the top level, and then, but the best thing about this as well that can come out of it, the hope that can come out of it, is that there can always be a third act. There can always be a third act for these sorts of things. You rise high, you fall, you can always come up again, but you've got to work at that. And Manu, you've got a lot of work to do, son, and hopefully you can do your time or do whatever you have to do, and you can work your way through it, and you can rise your way back up, mate. Hard to say I feel sorry for you, but I feel sorry for your family, and it's awful situation.
Anyway, that's another edition of the Hot Air Sports Podcast in the can.
Just like that. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, do all that cool stuff. Make sure you tell all your friends, any friends that like sports. Watch the Hot Air Sports Podcast. And if you've got any comments or anything you'd like us to talk about, make sure you leave a comment as well, and we'll give you a shout out next week's show.
Absolutely. YouTube and Spotify are the places to listen to the Hot Air Sports Podcast. So get on to them, and we will see you again in about a week's time. So it's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from him.